What's up YouTube? It's your main man AB the Hero back again with another video, and today we got to talk about Kyrie Irving apologizing to LeBron James, and we're gonna go a little bit deeper down the rabbit hole and see where we end up. So last week sometime it came out, Kyrie Irving did a press conference after a game, and he addressed the fact that he had to call LeBron James up and say, yo, Bron, you know, I understand now. These young bucks out here, they don't know what it takes to win a championship. And you know what I'm saying? You was trying to teach me something, I wasn't trying to hear it, and I apologize, all right? That's basically the gist of what he said there. When Kyrie Irving decided to leave the Cleveland Cavaliers, really put a wrench in the things that was happening down there in Cleveland. That was big news a couple years ago. So obviously the apologizing, the yo, I might have made a mistake from Kyrie Irving is a big deal. So that was big news last week, and a lot of media outlets talked about it. Some questioned whether the apology was sincere, and some took it as Kyrie just being petty and taking a shot at his current teammates. For me, I think that it was a sincere apology. I think that him saying that to the media was definitely to send a message to his teammates, but I don't think it was him being petty. I think it was his weird way of trying to show that he's relatable, that he's been in a situation that they're in, and that not only, because obviously his teammates were frustrated about some of the comments that he also made in the media previous to that. So I think that this was his attempt to say, yo, I've been where you've been at, I've been frustrated. I've had a leader or a veteran in the locker room trying to tell me what it takes to win a championship, and I dismissed it, and I ended up in the situation that we're in now. Whether or not it's good or bad is yet to be determined. But I think that that was the overall message that he was trying to send out. And like I mentioned, a lot of folks talked about it. I think some of the crazy things that I heard was folks over there at Inside the NBA or TNT, Charles Barkley, them saying that if Kyrie was his teammate, he'd had to put the hands on him for kind of putting him out there like that, which I think is crazy. But I think that one of the most thought-provoking reactions to this was from Colin Cowherd. I like Colin Cowherd's ability to use sports and relate it to life, because I think that's what I like to do on this channel. I like it to go a little bit deeper than just the competition of the game, but then how does that reflect on real life situations? So in this, around this conversation, Colin Cowherd had a video where he talked about leadership, and he talked about, and this was probably one of the only things that I feel like gave some validity to like the college experience for an athlete, right? This was what made me appreciate what he was saying so much, because I'm somebody who, I believe, college athletes should definitely get paid. I'm somebody who believes that when you look at a game day and you see the coaches have to be prepared, the student athletes have to be prepared, and if one of those groups are not on their game, it can result in disaster. You can catch an L like that. I always find it interesting because a lot of people say, well, they do get paid, they get scholarships. But I think it's interesting to think about a coach who is 50% responsible for the outcome of the events that happen on game day, as the players and the team will then make a salary, potentially, especially at some of these high-level colleges, will make a salary that in 1 year will pay for the tuition of one player for his 4 years in college. You know what I'm saying? So, and maybe even more than that. So when you think about that, you think about what both people put into the game, the idea that student athletes don't get paid is crazy to me, but that's a different point. What Colin Cowherd was talking about here is that the difference in leadership skills that players have when they come to the NBA after spending multiple years in college, as opposed to players who come straight out of high school or do the one and done route that is happening so much today, their lack of leadership skills. And to me, this actually made a bit of sense, because when you break down the different dynamics and expectations that you get from high school to college to professional, as far as being the best player, those expectations are very different. If you think about leaders in the high school level, it typically are guys who are upperclassmen, been on the team for a while. I think you see the same thing when you look at college. when you're a freshman coming into college, no matter how talented you are, you don't necessarily touch the campus, and folks are thinking that you're going to be a leader day one. Those are roles that you then have to work up to and you end up earning. And I think that while that dynamic for sports for a college level and high school seems a bit similar with upperclassmen taking more of a leadership role, I think that the biggest difference is in college, you get your first opportunity to be a leader of men. In high school, while you may be a captain on the team, you are still dealing with people who are, for the most part, are being supervised by their parents. So you may be the leader on the team, but you don't necessarily need to hold folks to the accountability that a leader of men would have to do on the college level. What makes that interesting is because you have these guys who come in one and done, and those guys are expected to play big minutes maybe and are super talented, but they're not expected to be the leaders. So they don't ever actually learn how to be leaders on the court. Then when you go to the professional levels, where the best player in most cases is expected to be the leader. I think we've seen this recently when you look at the Lakers and they drafted Lonzo Ball. One of the big things that they kept saying is, we're bringing him here because we want him to be a leader. They were expecting him to be God's gift to basketball, come on the court, take it over, and then lead this team. But then we see the same thing where he's still a young player, one of the youngest players on the team, and then is expected to be the leader just because his draft pick and how much money they're paying him. So I think that it does make a lot of sense when you look at teams like the Warriors, who have a bunch of players who played 3 to 4 years in college, guys who came in and worked their way up and earned leadership roles. So then when you get them into the NBA, you start to see them be able to navigate different roles because they've experienced what it's like to be on the bottom and then be the top as a leader. So that was a great point from Colin Cowherd to me, and I believe that it definitely adds some value to the NCAA experience, because the value of that is being called into question, especially when you have these guys who can go make millions of dollars, but instead they are playing just for a scholarship, when technically you could go make this $1 million and go and make your own little scholarship, you know what I'm saying? But if I get it, so obviously in that video, if you watch it in its entirety, Colin Cowherd does his typical thing where he does say some stuff that are borderline offensive, so you can watch that and don't think that I'm agreeing with that entire thing. But for the most part, I think it is a very interesting point to bring up that some of these players who are jumping straight to the NBA are definitely missing out on the opportunity to learn how to be leaders. When you look at LeBron James, and this is where I believe that he probably got this point from, is that LeBron James talked about his time in Miami being like it being his 4 years in college, going there with Dwayne Wade, a guy who was the established leader on that team, and learning some things from him, and then earning the co-captain role with Dwayne Wade on that team and Chris Bosh. And so I think that it definitely speaks to that point. And then when you compare that to the situation in the NFL, where you may have these quarterbacks who are expected to come in and be the leaders of franchises, but they've also spent 2 to 3 years playing college football, and then maybe even a redshirt year, so they come in a bit more mature potentially. It's just a really interesting thing to think about and to dive into. But folks, this is your main man, AB the Hero. We're back. It's 2019. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell. We got more content coming out. It's your main man, AB the Hero. I'm out. Peace.